I saw this and hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited about today's video because I went to Walmart last night and I was only like going there to exchange a couple things, but you know me, I just kept looking through every aisle and I did a little haul. I did a little drugstore haul again, and I almost actually picked up an entire face of new products that I've never tried before. Some of them I feel like are super new to the drugstore as well. Some of them might have been there for a while, but I just had never heard really much about them. I've never tried them myself. And so I'm going to be doing like a full face of all the new products that I purchased, and I'm going to be doing a little wear test so we can see if we can discover any more new drugstore gems, because that's my favorite. The only thing that I have is my brows right now. I use the CoverGirl Microfine and Define Pencil in the shade Honey Brown. This is not new to me. I didn't find a new brow product, so I just use what I have. So let's just go right into it. I'm actually going to start with complexion. I was recently sent these two primers from L'Oreal. So I didn't pick these up, but they are new. I haven't tried them and I wanted to use them in this tutorial. They are the L'Oreal Infallible Matlock Primer and then the Infallible Glow Lock Primer. I'm going to use both of them today. I'm going to test out the mattifying primer down the T-zone and then the glow primer on the rest of the face, just because usually I get a little oily in the T-zone and I like the rest of my skin to be a little bit glowy. So let's see how this will work. I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of that on my hand. It's a nice light pink color. This is the glow one first, the Glow Lock Primer. And I'm going to apply that to the sides of the face. Whoa, this feels like a lotion. It feels like a really nice hydrating lotion. So that's that one. Let's put the mattifying primer down the T-zone. I should have opened this off camera. I think I tried to open most of them so I wouldn't be sitting here trying to get the seal off. This looks a little different than I expected. I almost expected it to be more of a silicone. It looks like a lotion. It's just not pink like the other one was. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this all down the T-zone. This one does actually feel more silicone based, but not like the Professional or anything like that where it's like pure silicone. You can just tell that there's a little bit in there, but it's not like too much. So we are primed. I'm gonna let that sit for a second. I'm gonna go into foundation. I kind of swatched it on the back of my hand. It looked a little bit dark. I don't really know what I was thinking. I should have probably looked for a lighter shade. They had lighter shades, but for some reason this looked like it would match me in the store. We will see. This is the Revlon Age-Defying 3X foundation. I got the shade 20 Tender Beige. I have never seen anybody talk about this, and I had personally never seen this at the drugstore, so I was like, girl, I gotta try this. I used to love the Revlon Photoready foundation like years ago. I feel like they changed the formula and made it glittery because when I tried it again, it just was not cute. So I'm gonna go ahead and pump a little bit of this on the back of my hand. I love that there's a pump on this. There's 1 fluid ounce. And let's try it on one side with a brush. You know what? This might work. If it doesn't oxidize, we can definitely make this work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use a brush on one side of the face. This said it was a full coverage foundation on the display, which made me want to buy it as well because you guys know how much I really love full coverage foundations. I just personally reach for those most days because it's less work for me. Since I do have a little bit of hyperpigmentation and some blemishes, it's just really quick for me to throw on a full coverage foundation and not have to worry about it some days. This is looking good. I'm gonna make sure to blend it down the neck just in case it is slightly different than the rest of my skin tone. Get a little bit on the eyelids. I feel like that looks really nice. The coverage was good. That's the side with the brush. Now let's go ahead and apply it with a sponge. I picked up the Flower Beauty sponge. I've heard so much about this from so many different people and just haven't had the chance to try it yet. So I'm gonna put a little bit of the foundation all over my face, pick up the extra on the sponge, and let's see how it applies with a sponge. Wow, this is so soft. Oh my gosh, it's like really fluffy. Using the sponge made the foundation look a lot more skin-like, but as always, I feel like it picked up some of the product. I got way more coverage using the brush, so I would probably do what I do with a lot of foundations with this foundation. I love to apply it initially with a brush all over the skin and then kind of pat it out with the sponge to get that really nice finish, but you still get the coverage with the brush first. So me just stippling a little bit more of that over the problem areas added more coverage. It builds up really nicely. So far, so good. I have the weirdest blemish here. It's been so hard to cover. Gonna really blend it down the neck, just with whatever's left on the brush. Alright, so that is foundation. It actually looks really, really nice. I'm excited to see how this wears throughout the day. So let's move on to concealer. I was really excited to see these concealers. I'm pretty sure they're new. I hadn't seen them. They said on the display that they were Walmart exclusive, so if you haven't seen them around, check your Walmart. These are the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Concealers. I love the L'Oreal. I love L'Oreal True Match products, so I'm really excited about this. I got 2 shades. I got Fair W12 and Fair W34. I wanted to have 2 shades just in case so I could try it out on blemishes and under the eyes. So let's try this out. All right, so I've got the product in the sponge applicator. The sponges are really cute. I like the size of this. So I'm gonna take the light one first and I'm gonna see how this covers blemishes. It's supposed to be like a multi-use concealer, so I'm assuming that that means that you can use it on the skin as well as under the eyes. Try to get this one here. And I'm just gonna use it how I would normally use it. I'm gonna go ahead and pat that out with a sponge versus using the actual applicator tip that comes with it. I feel like that did a pretty good job. Let's use the fair shade underneath the eyes. I'm not really sure how much to use or how full coverage this is gonna be. So I'm kinda gonna do the same thing where I apply it and then blend it out with that sponge. Wow, I really like that, if you guys can see the difference. The finish is super, almost velvety looking. It's not super duper matte like drying matte, but it's not shiny like oily, but there is a radiance to it too. It's like the best of both worlds. I really like the finish of it. I'm hoping that it will hold up well because so far I really like this concealer. It doesn't seem like there's that much product in the actual applicator though, which it was kind of more of an expensive product if I remember, so that could potentially be a downside depending on how fast I go through this. I don't really know. I'm just taking what's left on the sponge and blending it on the eyelid as well. I'm also putting it down the center of the face. I really loved how easy it was to draw a line down the center of my nose. And then I'm just gonna blend that all out with the same sponge. So that is how the complexion looks so far. I think it looks nice. It's like semi-matte, has kind of a natural finish and natural coverage. Well, natural looking coverage. It's definitely more full coverage altogether. For powder, I picked up this one from Milani. It's the Translucent Light to Medium Make It Last Setting Powder. It's designed for light to medium skin tones. There's a little turn dial in here, which is nice, so you can kind of control how much product comes out of the packaging, which I think is a great idea. So I've got a little bit in the lid. I'm gonna go ahead and set the under eyes with this first, just using a little brush. I'm gonna make sure that it's not creased before I do that. That concealer is not really creasing that quickly. And I'm just going to press this underneath the eyes. The powder feels really, really fine, really smoothing. It's not that brightening for under the eyes, but so far I really like it. I'm gonna go ahead and use that same powder to set all over the face. Ooh, I like the way it makes my skin feel. A little bit of my blemishes are peeking through now. I feel like when I set it, it kind of darkened the spots, but that happens sometimes with a lot of setting powders for me, so just something that I noticed. I'm not mad at it. I don't really care if there's a little bit that shows through. Let's go ahead and move to bronzer. I didn't actually pick up a new bronzer, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use my L'Oreal True Match Lumi Bronze It Bronzer, and let's just warm up the complexion with this. I'm gonna put it along the hairline, under the cheekbones, along the jawline, and down the neck. I really am liking how this bronzer is blending over that finishing powder, or the setting powder. Sometimes this bronzer can kind of stick to areas on my face, so I have to always go over and like buff out the edges just to make sure it's super blended. But because of that powder, like I feel like it blends super nicely on top of it. I'm just taking some of that same bronzer and contouring the sides of the nose and underneath the lip. And I'm just gonna take that translucent powder brush and buff over the nose. I always like to do that so it's not like too harsh of a contour. For blush, I have seen these for years now. They're from Maybelline, they're the Fit Me blushes, and I've just never picked any up, and they reminded me so much of the Bobbi Brown blushes, which I've been loving, that I really wanted to see if they would be a potential dupe. So I picked up 2 shades that kind of look like Bobbi Brown shades to me, and I might layer them both. I'm gonna start off with the shade 35. This one's called Coral. It's just a really pretty soft coral shade. I'm not sure how pigmented these are, so I'm just gonna start to kind of layer this on the cheeks. Okay, so it seems like it's really soft. This one has a little bit more of a sheen to it, and the other blush is a little bit more of a matte blush. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this kind of all over the cheek area, all the way up toward the temples, just to have a nice wash of color and luminosity. And then let's take the shade 25. This is pink. I'm gonna use this on just the apples of the cheeks, kind of layer that over it. These are really soft. They're not like extremely pigmented, but I like how soft they are because then you can really build them up to the level of blush that you like. I like kind of heavier blushes sometimes. I think it makes the whole complexion look more alive. But if you're somebody who likes a more subtle blush, I feel like this formula, so far at least, is a little bit softer than some that I've used before. So I like it. It's soft and subtle, and I love how many colors they have in the range. So let's go ahead and move to highlight. I saw this and I had to pick it up, and it's so funny because while I was buying it yesterday, Kathleen Lights uploaded her favorites video, and I watched it this morning, and this was in it, and I didn't even know like that she had used it before. So this is the Milani Stellar Lights highlighter palette in the shade Rose Glow. So pretty. I'm probably gonna just dip into those two shades mainly, so let's do that. I'm just gonna go like that, maybe trying to take a little bit more of that lightest shade, and let's apply this to the cheeks. Oh wow, that is a very blinding highlighter. Oh, whoa. I'm getting a little out of hand here. Okay, gotta blend that out. That is so pretty. What? I like to bring it toward the front of the cheeks for a little glow, around the brows, a little above the brows, Cupid's bow. Whoops. Gosh, these are like pigmented and very glowy. I'm not used to that. Wow, that is nice. That is so pretty. I'm gonna put a little bit down the center of the nose. Oh my goodness, what a glow. Before I go into eyes, I'm just gonna go ahead and touch up the brows really quickly. And now let's go into eyeshadow. I picked up this Wet n Wild palette. It looked really intriguing, especially being from the drugstore, because so many drugstore palettes, I feel like, at least a lot of them are neutral, which I really like. And this is kind of a neutral, but they do have really fun pops of color in here. There's a nice blue. This was $5. It's Wet n Wild. It's their Not a Basic Peach palette, and I'm really excited to try it. So let's go ahead and see how this works. I'm going to first set the eyelid with some of that same Milani powder we used earlier, just so that we have a nice base for our eyeshadows. So first I'm going to take this shade right here. It says it's a transition shade. We'll see how well it shows up. I'm just going to go ahead and pop that through the crease and a little bit above as our transition shade. Oh, it is kind of showing up. It's really subtle, but I kind of like that for a transition. Yeah, you can definitely see it. It's just kind of like a taupey color. I've never used this kind of a shade for a transition before, but we're gonna work with it. While I have this shade, I'm gonna actually run that along the lower lash line as well, just for some subtle definition there. Next, I'm gonna take this second transition shade right here, which is a little bit darker and warmer than transition shades I've used before. So I'm just gonna kind of buff this through the crease again, right over where we put that first transition shade. But I'm just gonna keep it a little bit lower. I'm gonna take what's left on the brush and run that on the lower lash line. I'm gonna take the first brush we used and just kind of blend over both of those to make sure that the edges are nice and blended out. I'm actually adding more of that same shade to the outer corner of the eye. So now I'm gonna take this shade right here, just on my finger, and I'm gonna dab this on the eyelid. That's kind of a cool color. So far, I feel like these eyeshadows are working well. I don't know if I can say that I'm like floored yet about them like I was with the Milani palette, for example, but so far these are pretty good. I'm gonna take that dark brown shade and I'm just going to, ooh, now that's pretty pigmented. I'm gonna use that to really further define the outer third of the eye and crease. Wow, that one is really pigmented. I was not expecting that. And I'm gonna go back in with that shimmery shade we had on the lid just because that was so pigmented. I had to blend it further in than I had planned. I'm taking that original lighter transition shade on that original brush and just dusting that on the top edges to really diffuse it. I'm really wanting to use this palette. I'm not sure how it will look with the look we have going on, but I'm just gonna take it anyway. And I'm gonna buff this on the lower lash line. It's definitely more of a subtle blue. I'm not really floored by the pigment of this blue, but on the lower lash line, I kind of like the softness of it. I'm gonna blend out the edges. All right, so there's the eyeshadows. I feel like they worked. They just weren't like super duper pigmented, but you can definitely make them work. You can definitely build them up. I'm excited to see how they wear. So for mascara, I'm gonna use the Maybelline Total Temptation mascara. This has been around for a while now, and every time I see it in the drugstore, I just love the packaging so much. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy it. I'm just gonna try it out. Here's what the wand looks like. I usually really like wands like this because it means it will be volumizing. So I think it's supposed to be a lengthening and volumizing mascara, which I'm into. So let's go ahead and apply this to the top and bottom lashes. So here's this eye with the mascara on. This eye does not have it. So far I'm noticing that it is a good mix between a lengthening and volumizing mascara. Lengthening mascaras for me make my lashes super separated, super super thin and really long, obviously. Volumizing mascaras kind of make them a little bit more clumpy. This is like an in-between. It gives you that kind of separated length, but with a little bit more volume than just a lengthening mascara on its own. So I'm just gonna put this on this eye as well. I got a little bit of mascara on the lid, so while that dries, I'm gonna go back into this Milani palette, and I'm gonna use this to highlight the inner corner of the eyes. I'm excited to see how this really light shade looks because it's so pigmented. Oh my goodness. I'm mixing the gold and the lighter shade and just applying that to the inner corner, and then I'm going to take what's left on the brush and put it right under the highest point of the brow. I'm just taking a tissue and wiping off foundation on the lips if we got any on there. And then I actually want to set the brows. I'm going to give this L'Oreal Brow Stylist Boost and Set Volumizing Brow Mascara another whirl. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply this. That did something weird. I just feel like there's a lot of product on that applicator. I really like the effect that it gives when there's not like heaps of product on the applicator. So I just need to remember that and like maybe wipe off a little bit before I go in with it because it totally glopped right there. I'm gonna try to fix that. I don't know. So now I'm gonna apply the Physicians Formula Healthy Lip Velvet Finish liquid lipstick. These aren't new to me. I didn't pick up a new lip color. I believe this one's in the shade Coral Minerals. The label fell off of it, so I will definitely link it in the description, but I'm pretty sure it's Coral Minerals. So I want to add All Natural Nude in the center. Kind of want to combine these two so I get more of like a nudie coral. Before I forget, I'm going to dust off the mascara marks. And last but not least, I bought some setting sprays. Both of them are from Flower Beauty. They're both the Seal the Deal setting sprays. This one is the Long Lasting Matte Finish setting spray, and this is the Hydrating Dewy Finish setting spray. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing that I did with the primers. I'm going to do the hydrating spray on the outside of the face and then the mattifying down the center. So let's go ahead and spray the Dewy Finish spray. Okay, that's a fine mist. I'm just going to spray it on the outer parts of the face. I really like the applicator on that. It doesn't like squirt product out at you. And then let's do the center of the face with the matte finish. Okay. That one squirts a little bit. I can feel it. Yeah. Oh dear. All right, you guys, so this is a completed makeup look. I am going to be doing a wear test today. Here is the before and after with no makeup and what the finished look looks like. I'm really excited to see how everything wears. I didn't really have any major disappointments yet. I really like the foundation, the primer, the concealer felt really nice. I really like the finished look. The highlighters were beautiful. The eyeshadows were like, they work, obviously. I loved how the look turned out, but it wasn't like my favorite eyeshadow formula of all time. It is currently 1:22 in the afternoon. So I'm going to be wearing this as long as possible. I will check in with you guys in just a little bit and we will kind of do a little update on how everything is holding up. All right, you guys, I'm back. It is now 9:30 p.m. Let's take a close look at the makeup, shall we? So the foundation, to be honest, it hasn't really separated or budged or anything like that. I will say at around 5 o'clock, I had such an oily T-zone. It's been so long since I've had that oily of a T-zone. I'm thinking what may have happened is when I piled on like the mattifying primer and then I sealed the whole thing with the mattifying setting spray, I think that a lot of times I've noticed in the past as well, if I use too many mattifying products and if my skin isn't hydrated enough underneath those products, sometimes my skin kind of overcompensates and starts producing a lot more oil than usual because it feels restricted from all the mattifying things that I put on it. So I think that's kind of what happened. Around 5:30, I went out to dinner with my husband and I was so oily that I did touch up a little bit with the Milani translucent powder. It seemed to really nicely absorb everything. I didn't touch it up after that. I only did the one time through the T-zone because I was looking really, really oily. I looked up a little more information on this foundation here, this Revlon Age-Defying foundation. Online, it's kind of marketed as a more hydrating foundation, which makes a lot of sense. So it could also be a combination of that. It's super, super hydrating. It definitely looks really glowy. It looks really dewy. It did get a little greasy to me in my T-zone, but I think if you are dry skinned and you have a hard time finding really hydrating foundations, this might be a good one for you because it really has worn super, super well for several hours. Like I said before, there's not that much separating. There's not creasing. I have a little bit of creasing in the smile lines here, but it's actually not as bad as some other foundations crease on me. Around the nose sometimes gets a little strange with foundations. and that one kind of did, but it's really not that bad. I feel like overall it was a really good, pretty long wearing foundation. I forgot to mention it also has an SPF of 20 in it, so if you're somebody who likes sunscreen in your foundation, that might be a plus for you. The concealer I really liked as well. Things have stayed pretty matte underneath the eyes. My blemishes have stayed pretty concealed as well. There's a couple that are kind of coming through, but I do sometimes touch my chin and things like that. So sometimes the foundation can rub off in those areas, but it's actually looking pretty darn good. The eyeshadows, you guys, I wanted to mention that in like this lighting, in super bright lighting, I was kind of like, you know, the eyeshadows are good, but I don't know if I'm obsessed with them kind of thing. But in more like normal lighting and natural lighting and more dim lighting, there's like these really gorgeous, you can kind of see them in this light, but it's actually prettier in different lighting. But there's these really gorgeous like gold glitter flakes, and it's beautiful. That shade from the Wet n Wild palette, this one that I used right here, I'm really loving it. So this was not initially a favorite of mine just because the application wasn't like something that blew me away, but I have really enjoyed the uniqueness of that eyeshadow, and it's worn for hours, so I don't really have anything bad to say about this, even though I thought that like maybe I would by the end of the day. I really don't actually. The highlight is really gorgeous. I feel like as it wore throughout the day, it just looked more and more dewy and more natural, which I really like. So I'm so excited about this Milani palette. The mascara to me looks really nice. It didn't flake or anything underneath the eyes, which is something that I like to look for, so that was a plus. I feel like it's kind of just like another mascara to me. I feel like it's a good mascara, so if you're in need of one and you like how this looks, I would recommend it, but I feel like right now I'm gravitating toward that CoverGirl one that I used in my last video and the L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara if we're talking like drugstore mascaras. So the Flower Beauty sponge was great. I really like that. I'm excited to keep using it. The Flower Beauty Seal the Deal setting sprays. The mattifying one didn't seem to work very well this time around, but again, I think that's because I overdid the mattifying products in the T-zone and my skin freaked. The dewy setting spray is what I have on the rest of my face, and I do feel like maybe that's what's helped it last really long. I don't know. The makeup seems to look really nice in those areas, and that's also where I put the Infallible Glow Lock Primer on. So I'm definitely going to keep playing with these and see how it works with other foundations, more like foundations that I'm more familiar with, just to kind of see if it's the foundation that's lasting longer or if it's those two in conjunction with the foundation that's making it look really nice. Oh yeah, the blushes. Okay, the Coral blush, I thought it was really pretty, but I feel like I have blushes that are super similar to this, like the Found Beauty Illuminating Blush kind of did the same thing for me. Also my L'Oreal blush. I do think it was pretty though on the skin. I do like the number 25, the pink one, a little bit more just because that's more of a matte blush, and I just kind of like the matte bright pink vibe. It's very Bobbi Brown, and I feel like I would reach for this one more than this one just because I have a lot that give this exact same effect. I also didn't touch up my lip color at all. I know it doesn't look super amazing, but look at how well it faded over hours and hours, over several meals, several snacks. Love these lip colors. Those aren't new to me. I've used them for several months now, but they're really great. Oh, the powder. I really have liked the powder. Like I said before, when I dusted it over the T-zone, it really seemed to do a nice job of getting rid of oils. I'll show you guys right now what I did because I just kind of like to show you sometimes how it looks if you were to touch this up throughout the day. So I'm just going to kind of dust that over the T-zone. Do you see how well that works? But the thing that I liked about it is how finely milled it is. So it really just soaks up the oils but lets it still look like skin. It just kind of freshens up the makeup. So just for reference, I'm now going to do a before and after from when I first applied the makeup to now when I just freshly touched it up, so you guys can kind of see how it wore throughout the day and how it looks after I've touched it up in comparison to the very beginning of the day. I felt like I had actually a really successful haul again. I feel like I have a lot of successful hauls at the drugstore these days and I love it. I can't wait to keep finding more fabulous products from the drugstore. Please comment down below and let me know if you guys have tried any of these products and what your thoughts are on any of them. Love you all so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Love you. Bye.